Welcome to Thriving with Chiropractic, where Dr. Mosier from Mosier Family Chiropractic shares a variety of topics designed to empower, inspire, and give hope. Take a few notes and enjoy the lesson. Well, hey, my chiropractic, Thriving with Chiropractic family. I have an absolute treat for you. I have Dr. Dan Yachter, and in the profession of chiropractic, he is known as the chiropractor's chiropractor. And he has had one of the biggest practices in the world, seeing over 2,000 patient visits a week, which is amazing and makes your head spin at that. But most of those patients were kids. And he has spoken, that's probably not even proper grammar, but that's okay. We're live. So he has been to all the chiropractic colleges around the world, even New Zealand. And so, Dr. Dan, why did you become a chiropractor? What is your chiropractic story?
Well, I'll start off by saying that I never once thought growing up that I'd ever be a chiropractor. Didn't know what one was. Never visited one. It wasn't on the radar. However, my father, who's 80 years of age currently, when he was 7 years old, he was in a summer camp, went down a slide, and unbeknownst to him, coming down the slide into this lake, there was a cast iron bathtub. And I had no idea that it was waiting for his skull. It was a direct hit into the lip of this cast iron bathtub with his skull, a fractured skull from ear to ear. And as you can imagine, knocked out cold upon impact, bloodied head, and sank to the bottom of this lake and almost drowned. Thankfully, a lifeguard perched up high in the distance spotted my father. The water was shallow enough where he can actually get to him, saw him, got to him, dragged him out, got him to the hospital. And, the medics were amazed that he was still alive. And they told my grandparents it was a miracle, but, he was going to be there for a while. So after a few weeks of getting nursed back to health, he was let out. My grandparents were told that he was going to be fine. There wouldn't be any issue. And he went home. And within a few days, my father began developing what were later described and really incredible pain, just these basically skull crushing migraine headaches that he had that developed. And my grandparents were certain that the medics would figure it out, brought him back to look for answers. None of them could figure out what was going on, what the cause was. So they ended up telling my grandparents, we really don't have any answers for you. Your son is going to have to live with these migraine headaches for the rest of his life, which is what every parent loves to hear, right? Your child has this issue. There's nothing we can do. Let's just do more drugs and more surgery, whatever. No hope. It's the worst thing you can give, especially a parent. So my grandparents brought my father home. And my father proceeded to live with these crippling headaches for the next several decades, to the point where when I was growing up as a kid, I'd watch my father walk around the house with this crippling pain regularly. Just when they were at their height, their worst, he'd have to just lie in a dark bedroom, lights off, no noise. He was pretty much handicapped, crippled from these headaches. That's how they weren't headaches; they were migraines. They were just absolutely devastating. My dad, he just ate painkillers by the bucket, by the bucket load. I mean, he just couldn't get enough painkillers into his body fast enough. And thankfully, they didn't have the opioids back then, because my dad would have been, looking for that heavy stuff. But nonetheless, as we both know very well in our listening audience, and you see this, Dr. Chris, all the time in your community, people coming in, is that the medication obviously can only it can only cover up. It can only mask. It doesn't get to the cause of the issue. As much as doctors want to help, an allopathic approach will never get to the cause of the issue. And it'll never not only not get to the issue, but if it doesn't get to the issue, the problem gets worse. It's not like your problem's just maintained on the medication. And because of that, you're going to stay sick for the rest of your life. So that's really not a plan, but that was kind of the plan that was happening for my dad. The doctors have said, here's what you do. But because of that, as we both know, the iatrogenic, the Latin word term for doctor-induced or medication, drug-induced inflicted damage, collateral damage from the meds, my dad developed all kinds of other issues in his body. kidney issues, a lot of medications, liver was affected, his GI tract was messed up from it. I mean, his body started feeling the effects of the medications as time went on, inflicted damage to his thyroid, messed his thyroid up. My dad gained a bunch of weight. He was freezing all the time, lethargic, no energy. Dad went back to the doctor. The doctor just basically felt around his thyroid, no blood test, no testing panel, nothing like that, no markers, no thyroid markers. After palpating his neck and asking him a few questions, said, you clearly have a thyroid problem. We're going to go ahead and put you on Synthroid for the rest of your life. And my dad was compliant. So a compliant patient said, yes, I guess you know what you're talking about. Went on yet another medication. So this just went on for years and years and years. My dad saw a lot of doctors, the best of the best in South Florida, and just, always looked for answers. Never could get any, just more and more meds. And it just was a very desperate situation for my father. And it was just bad. It just destroyed not only his quality of life when he got these migraines, but ours as well. Our whole family was affected by it. So it wasn't until years later, my brother David, who you know as well, Dr. David Yachter, he owns Elevation Health. That's a plantation down in South Florida. He was a student at the University of Florida, driving down the main strip, gets in a very bad car accident. He basically experiences a very severe spinal injury from the car accident. Basically, that the medical doctors tell him, your route is going to be surgery and drugs, really, to correct your problem. And that's what he was going to do. We didn't know anything about chiropractic, but it turned out that his best friend at the time was very into chiropractic. He was going regularly, reaped the benefits from a chiropractic lifestyle, and told my brother, you should go down the road and see my chiropractor. This guy not only helped me, this guy saved my life. You need to go see him. He's going to save your life and probably going to prevent the surgery. My brother didn't know what it was. He just trusted his friend's simple explanation of what chiropractic was and is, and just really a leap of faith, he went. And after a few weeks, he wasn't fully functional or healed, but he had enough function and health restored to his body where he no longer needed the surgery. He no longer needed the drugs. And then as time went on, as the year went on, he fully mended. And after that experience, he decided he wanted to become a chiropractor, of course, right? It was a life-altering event for him. He went to chiropractic school, just a couple of years, very few, year or two into school, very, very small amount of time. My brother had a break. He came home. I mean, I think it may have been maximum a couple of years in school. And he drove down from Atlanta, Life University, which is where I went to school. Drove down to North Miami Beach, where I grew up, and ran into the house, and he found my dad lying in his cave, having one of his massive migraine attacks with a pillow over his head, writhing in agony, crying out to God for an answer to the suffering that he endured, to that point, 40 long years. My brother walked in the room, and he was all jazzed up because he's in chiropractic school, learning about this just miracle healthcare science that we know it is to be. We see it every day. And my brother is excited. He said, Dad, what I'm learning in school is going to be able to help you. My dad was, he was in disbelief. He's like, I know you're my son. You want to help me, but 40 years, I've seen all these physicians. You've been in school a very short amount of time. We didn't really know what my brother was doing in school at that time. My brother was excited. We didn't really understand it. But my brother pressed in assertively, told my dad, let me palpate your spine. Let me feel around your spine. Palpated his lumbar spine, his thoracic spine, and then his upper cervical spine. And when he got to his upper cervical spine, he said to my dad, this I know after a very, short amount of time in school. At least I know this. There's something very abnormal in your neck. I mean, biomechanically abnormal. And what happened? My dad's answer was, nothing happened. It's my neck. It's always been that way. My dad was not expecting the question. My brother said, Dad, think about it because something's not right. And so oddly enough, and kind of the way this, the story that I'm relating here goes, my dad didn't have a neck pain problem. He didn't have a musculoskeletal type of ache. And if he had, a physician would have done a physical exam on him all those years. And to the point that we know about neurology, about the neuromusculoskeletal system, you could have a subluxation, you could have a spinal issue. And most, I'm sure the listening audience knows what a subluxation is. You could have an issue in your spine and have no pain accompanying it, at least maybe yet. But that's common. My dad, at least he was not aware. There wasn't enough pain for him to know that there was any issue in his neck. Now we know, through the story right now, we know what created it. But that at that time, my dad did not put two and two together. He had not connected the dots. So my brother pressed in. He kind of interrogated my dad, and he said, "What's going on here? There's something not right." And we know, again, we know the principle in neurology that there's a really hefty percentage of the neurology, some say up to 90%, is functional or silent, and then 10% is feeling or sensory. So you could have a bone out of alignment in your spine causing major damage to your neurology, and it could be on the functional side, not necessarily on the feeling or sensory, not registering pain or pain yet. So my dad, as his functional subluxation, really messing his whole body and his life up. And my brother says, "Dad, what's going on here? You think about it. You have to know what created that." After several minutes, it was almost like a light bulb went off in my dad's head, and the neurons started connecting. And he starts talking about a bathtub. To that point in my life, I had never heard a story about a bathtub. He's telling us a story. My brother's talking about the atlas vertebrae, the first bone in the neck. My dad's talking about his migraine, headaches, and everything's come together, connecting. And my brother just said, "Hey, Dad, I know exactly what to do. Just sit still. I'm going to go ahead and administer a chiropractic adjustment." And I don't know why my dad was so trusting, but he was. And he adjusted his atlas vertebrae, first bone in the neck, which obviously we know how critical that bone is.
Yes.
The brainstem is there, the vagus nerve, which emanates out and wires into every single organ, tissue, gland in the human body. And if that bone's out of alignment, you're going to have major problems, major distortions in your health. And so my brother adjusted this atlas, and after 40 years of being out of alignment, you adjust a bone that's been that locked, smashed into a cast iron bathtub, it's going to make a pretty major noise. So,
Yeah.
but while he was home, again, we know this, and this is probably good for this is probably a reinforcement for everybody listening, is that there's a lot of muscle memory and soft tissue, hard tissue memory, and neurological memory. So musculoskeletal memory. So that spine wanted to go right back. So my brother was home for probably about a month, did a whole series of adjustments, dozens. And then my brother went back to school. 6 months went by, and my father calls my brother on the phone and said to my brother, "Hey, no headaches since you started adjusting me." And that's well over 30 years ago. My father has not had any headaches, no migraines. He, at the age of 80, is completely drug-free. His liver, stomach, kidneys are healed. Past his last kidney stone about 15, 20 years ago, he had horrific kidney stones from all the medications destroying his kidneys. My dad is strong. Some days he does up to 250 push-ups. He's healthy, vibrant. He's got his body health back, his brain health back. And see, chiropractic, every day, it's very easy for me to wake up and be excited to go to the office, because chiropractic not only gave my dad his life back, I gave my dad back. And I watched that, and I was pre-med, going the medical route. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon, a pediatric orthopedic surgeon, took the MCATs, was at Shands, was pre-med, getting ready to graduate. And I saw that, and God changed my life on a dime. He said, "You're not going to drug or cut, you're going to heal." And it completely altered my trajectory in life. And thank God it did. I believe it was divine intervention for all parties involved. So
I love it. There's so many pieces to the story that I want to pull out. Like, your friend taking the time to tell you guys about chiropractic. And that's really the theme for us 2022 is, story worth sharing. Everybody has a story. And really, when you share your story, it pulls someone into the lifeboat. And your friend did that. I'm still thinking, like, your whole childhood, like from birth to teenager, all you knew was your dad had migraines, which blows my mind. And I'm also thinking about, our stories are similar. Ellen had terrible migraines, and just watching her suffer, and then really chiropractic swooped in and changed our relationship, our marriage, everything. I'm even thinking about a patient who recently started with us, major injury to his neck back in the 70s. Well, he was a young man. He needed to work. So he had headaches. So he just took handfuls of ibuprofen. And 30 years later, he ends up with stage 3 kidney disease. So it just it's so similar. And he just started getting adjusted, and well, headaches are going away. And he's like, "I wish you were in practice 30 years ago." It's just really It's amazing. We could just share stories after stories. Dr. Dan, I have a question for you. You have seen thousands of patients, especially kids. What is your most memorable patient story?
Yeah, that's a hard question. There's so many great ones, and but to your point, I just wanted to make one of the points you made. I hear that constantly. The reason why you're doing this broadcast right now, right? The reason we're talking, the reason we do what we do every day, and getting the message out, because we hear that over and over. Every week when we do our patient orientation class, I hear the same thing at the end. Number one, I wish I would have met you 30 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it is. And I wish I would have known this. It's just literally divine health is our birthright. Health and healing is our birthright. And many times the only thing that's in the way of a person obtaining that is that knowledge. And we have knowledge, we have powerful knowledge. And the best way to tell it is, when we share our stories and what we see at the office, just like, what we're talking about right now, it's inspiring. It gives people hope. It pulls them out of fear and hopelessness and brings them to hope. And it shows them that there is a way out. There's a way out from their darkness. There's a way out from their physical and mental suffering. And chiropractic is that answer for millions and millions and millions of people. I would say probably the one that's dearest to my heart, someone who I see regularly. It's a family who started with me when I first opened, well over 20 years ago. Tristan's parents came in. He was 8 months old, and they told his parents while he was gestating that he was Down syndrome and that they should consider aborting him. They brought him in at 8 months, and these parents are incredible. They're unique in the way that they made a decision as a couple not to label him and to optimize whatever potential God put in him, and never to put any kind of limitation on him, which is rare, for parents once they're given that diagnosis. Well, he's been under care. He was just 2 weeks ago. He's sitting out in my waiting room and getting ready to come in, and I looked out and I saw him sitting there, and he's, I guess, somewhere around 22 now. Well, he's a second-degree black belt, graduated from high school. He was the lead role in Charlie Brown Christmas last week. Had to memorize 100 lines or whatever it was for the whole play. He's an amazing kid. He's got employment, job. He has been to all my workshops, sits front row. At the end of the workshop, he can literally repeat verbatim the entire workshop. He's never had a drug in his body. He's never had a vaccine in his body. He's never had an antibiotic in his body. He's never had an ear infection. He's never had anything. And the kid's grown up strong and healthy, not only because, through the languaging that his parents were careful with, they never casted any limitations on him, but what chiropractic did, it came alongside that and said, there is unlimited healing. There's unlimited human potential in you. There's unlimited genetic potential to unfold inside of you. And through chiropractic, I believe that was obtained. And that's the gift that we can give the families of our community, whether they've been given a label or not, the kids, the families, giving them a chance to express the fullest of what God has placed in them. And that's what chiropractic is about. It's about liberating anything that's going to interfere with the creator to optimize human potential, genetic potential, God-given potential in every way. We have the ability to do that. And I can give you 1,000 stories like that, similar to that, as inspiring as that. And that's what we see in the office. And he's doing great. He's healthy. He's thriving. And I always go back to, not that we want to kind of be negative, but what happens if he doesn't make it to our office? Where does he go? Where does he find help? What type of messaging are his parents going to get? Are they going to get the hope? Are they going to get a grim diagnosis? Which direction are they going to be sent? Are they going to be given the, let's be a realistic diagnosis? Because with Down syndrome children, there are typically a lot of health issues that just come along with just being Down syndrome. And he's had none of those things. And he's strong, he's healthy. I wouldn't mess with him. He's a second-degree black belt. He'd take me out with his pinky, this kid. He breaks concrete blocks. They bring videos in. I'm like, wow, just unbelievable. So probably the most inspiring thing for me, this family's still under active care. They come in every couple of weeks, and they're just very special to me, and I love them dearly. And it's beautiful being a chiropractor and doing what we do.
I love it. So, and when we are on the same page on the labeling, Elle and I, we have a big heart for kids with autism, the spectrum, right? And there's a large spectrum, and we even have a show on autism. You'll have to check it out at some point, Dr. Dan. But we were really big on, you don't want to just label them. They're not autistic. They're a child who just happens to have autism. And I tell folks all the time, there's really, when you come to see us as a chiropractor, there's a fork in the road. You can go and allow your nervous system, the subluxation, to continue to fight against you, causing all these health issues, or we can start correcting it and go the other way. And then your nervous system starts fighting for you. And so, Dr. Dan, my last question, and really the biggest question, is, what is your mission now? I'm trying to think of the right words. You're a few years older than I am. You're seasoned, right? You have mentored thousands of chiropractors. I would even consider myself a product of your mentoring. What is your mission moving forward?
Well, it's big. Obviously, there's a lot of work we have to do in the profession. There's so many different levels. But I think for me, to keep it focused, I just want to continue creating one great Tristan at a time. Be ready for that next person. Stay focused and practice, because each and every one of our communities need us. And I think the more focused we could be in our communities together collectively, we can create a wave. It doesn't take a lot of chiropractors to do it. But if we just go in each and every day knowing that one life in front of us, we have the ability, a very powerful ability to make a dramatic impact on their trajectory in life. If we're just focused enough on them, if we come to the office present, right, and creating one great patient at a time, giving them everything chiropractic's got, removing the ear interference, be the best clinicians we can be, liberating all the potential that God's put in their body, making sure that we're giving 100% to each patient, and then moving on to the next patient. I think that's more important than anything. We want to change the world. We want to see the whole, you and I and so many chiropractors want to see the whole entire world under chiropractic care. We know the importance of living a life without subluxation and getting checked regularly for interference. But for me, it's just going to the office for the next 50, 60, 70 years, however many years the Lord wants to give me, and giving my best every day, because I know right where I'm at, I can make a dramatic impact. We have tools, we have knowledge, and just continue to make a very powerful impact on a local level like you are. And collectively, we will change the world.
I love it. Our mission is one more. We're like church. We can always squeeze one more in. And that's really the big reason of doing this podcast, this YouTube channel, Thriving with Chiropractic. And Dr. Dan, I know you have a Facebook group, and folks, feel free to join. You're going to learn so much. It's called My Family, My Mission. This is a group you definitely want to be a part of. Dr. Dan, you have this Sunday morning segment. You're either at the lake or at the beach, and we're all here in Indiana when we're freezing to death. We're jealous. So you might get some hate emojis every so often. But when I watch those, it's extremely inspiring. And I want to thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really do.
So folks, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and stay tuned for next week's Thriving with Chiropractic.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Chris.
If you found value in this video, please comment and let us know your biggest takeaway. We also ask that you don't keep this information to yourself. We ask that you share it with your friends and family by simply clicking the share button below.